So it's with this great respect that we attempt to understand with our feeble minds the great wisdom of the Buddhas. But we have to try. The reason we have to try is because there's so much suffering in the world, as you know. You watch the news and the newspapers, etc., and there is so much suffering in the world. Even if you have a life devoid of suffering, in terms of, war and abuse and upset and anger, we are all exposed to impermanence, which is change. Everything changes, and this is the cause of suffering. If things could stay the same, if things remained unchanged, then the suffering would be greatly reduced. But unfortunately, everything changes. Health to illness, life to death, and the weather, and everything changes. Nothing is the same. And although as humans we constantly try to make things the same, keep things the same, with the tarmac and the concrete and everything we're always trying to keep everything, stop things changing, but it never works. Everything, everything goes in the end, one way or another. Even the concrete, even the tarmac, everything has to be maintained, has to be sustained. The body has to be sustained by food and drink and air and warmth, etc., and everything is constantly changing. And it's because of this impermanence and this constant changing and the suffering it causes that the Buddhas manifest, because they are beyond suffering, because they have understood the real reality. They've had the real perfect realization of how things truly exist, the ultimate truth. And they manifest to help us to understand, have those realizations, so that we don't suffer anymore. So at the time of the Buddha, there was a great king in what is now known as India, called King Bimbisara. And the king wished to send, he had a friend who was a great nobleman, very wealthy nobleman. And the king, Bimbisara, wished to send this friend a gift, a special gift that the noble friend would really like. And of course, the noble friend was so wealthy and he had everything. What could he possibly, the king really wanted to send him, like how it is if you want to send someone a gift and you really want them to like it, something they've never seen before, something that will be really meaningful to them. So, and he had no idea what he could get him. This person, this friend, had everything already. So when the next time King Bimbisara was in the presence of the Buddha, he asked Buddha, what can I send this? I really appreciate this person. I wish to send him something truly meaningful. And the Buddha said, actually what the Buddha did was describe a diagram, a picture, and it was this one. And he said, if you have this painted and send it to this friend of yours, who at the moment isn't outwardly spiritual and doesn't seem to have any religious connection, you will find that he finds it, he greatly satisfied by it and greatly appreciates it, etc., and it will have a great effect. So the king commissioned this painting and then showed it to the Buddha before giving it to the friend. And the King Bimbisara sent the picture to the friend, the noble friend, and immediately, within a few minutes of him looking at it, he started to change, his view started to change. And he started to have a sort of minor realizations about life and the profundity of spiritual practice, etc. And eventually, this picture was spread amongst his friends and relatives, etc., and then out into the further country of this nobleman, and it became very famous and helped many, many people upon the spiritual path. So it's famous, very famous now as one of the main iconic diagrams of the Buddha Dharma in this world, and known as the Wheel of Life, or Bhavacakra in Sanskrit. And basically, there's a wheel suspended in space, and the space is very, very important. I'll come to that in a second. And holding the wheel in its jaws is a monster, a demon, or whatever you want to call it, and it's basically suffering. And it's the suffering monster that's holding the wheel is impermanence. It's that change that we were talking about, the constant fact that constantly everything changes, nothing stays the same. Our bodies, all phenomena, others, relationships, weather, you name it, everything changes. So even food, you name a food. I know they've got cans now, canned food, tinned food, which makes it last longer. Again, our attempt to make things not change. So anyway, this wheel has got three sections: a center, a middle section, and then an outer ring. And the center, the hub of the wheel, it has got a pig with a pigeon and a snake coming out of its mouth. The pig represents the basic ignorance. The basic ignorance is linked to the actual space that the wheel is floating in, because the ignorance is the veil, the obstruction of the basic primordial space, or the basic primordial nature of mind, which is utterly pure. And so the space that the wheel of life or existence appears in is pure, absolutely pure, and requires nothing and cannot be changed. It's unstainable, indestructible, and will always be there. And it's at the center of our heart, and it's the basis of all our thinking. It's the basis of our consciousness. It's the basis of everything, knowledge, everything. It's the boss. But it's very, very subtle. And so it's all beings come into existence because of the mind's that pure nature is obstructed by this veil of ignorance, and Buddha called it ignorance. And it's because it's through the mind not realizing that it is omniscient, that it is pure, that it is all pervasive, that it requires nothing. This ignorance causes it to develop a idea of existence, which we call duality. Duality means now there is two. Originally, and always actually in ultimate reality, there is only one, and that is the clear light space, or clear light primordial awareness of the nature of mind. And that is it. That's the ultimate truth. Now, what we've got to do is try and get back to it, because what we've got at the moment is the ignorance. We've got the idea of this dichotomy of duality, which means myself and others. Basically, that's it, myself and others, but also comes from that up and down, left and right, hot and cold. We're constantly choosing between two things all the time. But the main thing is the nature of mind, and then the obstruction of the nature of mind, which causes characteristics. It causes some kind of idea of an existence within the nature of mind. It's a bit like a wave in water. You look at a ripple under the sea, and we call it a ripple or a wave or a current, but actually it's just made of water. That's all of us. All beings are actually the nature of mind. We are all ultimately pure. This plaque, it says, basically, this is the wheel of life, the wheel of existence. Destroy it as if one is an elephant in a grass hut. So we are all attached. We're all very attached to existence, to life, and yet it's slipping away from us all the time. We're attached to something that we can't possibly keep. Nobody wants to admit that. It's scary and all the rest of it, but you have to face it, because if you face it, the mind will calm down. The mind will become rational. As long as we keep trying to avoid it, ignore it, ignorance, it be confusion, attachment, falseness, the act, turning a blind eye, whatever you want to call it. But it's foolish. It's not wise. The wise always face the truth. So it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult, and especially for us in the West, because we have such nice conditions and luxurious life and a soft bed, and we love going to sleep, and we love the Black Forest Gatto and the coffee and alcohol and everything, going out with friends. Obviously, if you're in India 500 years ago and all you've got is a grass hut and you have to poo in a hole and everyone around you is dying of cholera, it's a lot easier to have renunciation. But now we've got this lovely, luxurious life where we don't want to let anything go. When it comes for our end, the doctors and nurses in the pandemic, they were talking about people coming into hospital and just totally in denial. The doctors say, I'm sorry, your oxygen level's gone down to so low now, there's no way we can get it back up. I'm afraid there's nothing we can do. And people were saying, this is ridiculous, get the manager. Wow. They just can't accept it because life is so departed from any kind of reality. We never see any death. Even roadkill is cleared up as quickly as possible, let alone human bodies. You're not allowed to see it. We have to live in this utopia. Society is unless you're fortunate enough to be a medical worker where you do see some kind of impermanence. But all our houses last forever, the roads last forever, everything, there's more. Things are still, obviously, there are still things that don't last, or obviously their business is going bust, etc. But on the whole, things remain the same. And this is not good for our mind for understanding the reality. The reality is impermanence. All of existence is impermanence. And we must face it and we must become familiar with it. We are not familiar with it. We are familiar with permanence. And it's a massive delusion, a big problem. It stops us being happy. We think it's like ego. You think permanence will make you happy. But of course, impermanence is always there. Everything is impermanent. And so we're just setting ourselves up for suffering. If we can get our mind to accept impermanence, if we can get our mind to calm down and accept things the way they really are, we will be happy, I promise. You will be content, peaceful, and free. At the moment, we're trying to live the impossible dream. We'll never be free as long as we do that. We will always be stitching ourselves up.